All right, welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with us. We are still talking about Katiba at 15 years, an extension of the first segment, the conversation we are having. And with me in studio, I have Josephat Kemanya, a political analyst. Just right next to him is Faith Matayan, a youth advocate, Hans Rop, a political analyst, and of course, Njeri Minor, a youth leader. And this week, Kenya marks 15 years since the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution. Though not a public holiday, President William Ruto has declared August 27th a day of reflection, the Katiba. Today we're talking about 15 years in. The Bill of Rights. What has worked, what hasn't, and what is the way forward? I want to start with you, or ladies first. Ladies first or Josephat first? Let's start with Josephat Kemanya. When you hear about the Constitution of Kenya, 15 years in, what reflections do you make today?
Well, a very good morning to all our viewers today. And indeed, it's a good birthday to observe. 15 years in the making and the growing of our Constitution. For me, it highlights the progressive democracy we are experiencing as a country, the struggle for political space, the advances we've made on safeguarding human rights, basically the growth of a nation called Kenya and our people. Although we've had our challenges, which I'm sure we'll be looking at, but I'm grateful that we have made these advances because we are rated highly as one of the best constitutions. So it means as a people, we've been able to formulate rules, laws, and regulations, basically the Constitution, and you can see I do have my copy that I've had for 10 years on how we want to be governed. So for me, it's really a hallmark of progress as a country, and I'm looking forward on how we can best advance it because it's a document that is meant to be alive. Means it's supposed to work, be improved on, and serve us as the people. This is the spirit of the people that we Kenyans came together and said, yes, as a majority, this is the direction we want to be governed. So I'm happy to see that we're still trying to really implement, but there are a lot of challenges that we should be talking about.
All right. Faith, 15 years in, what do you make of the Constitution of Kenya 2010 in regards to the mandates that we foresaw, or the government of the day back then in 2010? What would you make of it 15 years in?
Thank you so much. The Constitution, the 2010 Constitution has brought some changes when it comes like devolution that has ensured that the decision-making power has been brought closer to the people. And we also see that resources are closer to the people, promoting local development. So we've seen some progress, but there's still some challenges. There's still some gaps that need to be addressed. Like, for instance, the affirmative action, it's yet to be fully realized. So we still need to do something about it, not necessarily to keep amending it, but rather living by it.
All right. Of course, we'll be getting deeper into the challenges and these loopholes that you're talking about in the Constitution that you'd want a little bit of them sealed, almost, if at all. But Hans, now let me get to you. 15 years in, what do you make of the Constitution of Kenya 2010? Have dreams in the Constitution, when it just started in 2010, been realized as of 2025?
Good morning, all viewers. And 15 years, there are many things that have been achieved. Just as my fellow panelists say, some needed at least to still be worked on. But Kenya has made a serious progress in 15 years. Because if you observe the kind of leadership we had since independence, many things were put at hold. Like the leaders that were there before, they could even share resources with their friends, from sharing of pieces of land of this country. If you studied, you realize, if you observe the history, you realize it was not evenly shared. But after the new constitution has come in, that you cannot just dish out to your friends. You remember even issues of like what you are, or even observing what the current government is trying to do today about EGP, in procurement system. You realize when the new constitution came in, there were processes, so now you can be given tenders, businesses with the government, unlike before, whereby somebody would just be given a road to do, just because you're a friend to somebody in the in the, maybe in the authority. But when you observe even the rights that has been there to human being, to women, to BWDs, to youth, today this constitution brought affirmative action to even the positions of women reps, whereby the constitution gave a chance to show that women can also be leaders in this country. Because before, we could even see only men being elected, having the kind of African setup. But we are glad about this constitution. It has exposed some of the women who are good leaders. And that's why even today in Kenya, we have 3 governors who are women, who went into election, competed with men, and still won over them. So I feel that this constitution has really brought serious progress for the last 15 years. And although during the campaign of selling the ideas of the constitution, those who are the experts were saying, let's pass it as it is, so that along the way we amend it. So we feel there's been laxity within the 15 years on sealing the loopholes that the constitution could be having.
Hans, let me start with you on the issue of loopholes. What are some of these loopholes that you see in the Constitution that, as of 2025, you see that you see this area, you know, we need to amend it even as we move forward in terms of just implementing the views and vision of the Constitution? One
of the most sensitive things that I can highlight is on matters of the ruling party. Like if you have a president who is from a certain party, given by the constitution as it is, then they go with his running mate. So the same ruling party has the right to choose who becomes the Speaker of the National Assembly, the Speaker of the Senate. You are there to also see they can also come in with the cabinet secretaries, PSS, MDs, and so on. So you realize it secludes some people who probably would not have supported the current president. So if the current if a leader elected under the new constitution wins by 50 plus 1%, then we have like around 49 point something percent who might not have agreed with him, but they might not have a chance to serve despite they could be good citizens or good experts in the country. So I still feel that the constitution should have given another extra freedom to those who might not necessarily agree with the current leadership to get leadership in the country so that they could be some fairness. Because you even observe what we have currently is that at times when certain regions blocks we have combined, the other regions who might not get development. Like Kenya today, we don't have even developments in all country. So the constitution should have ensured that we have even power distribution in the country, whereby we have a strong opposition. We can the constitution could give a budget for the opposition, maybe the shadow ministers and so on. And now it can balance it itself. The experts, the lawyers who can do it better should do it for us. But we feel like today there is a winner take off, and then we have people who feel they're in the cold. That's why we can be having a campaign in Kenya today for a whole 5 years. Reason? Those in the opposition fights to get in the government. And at times we are blackmailed in Kenyans to think that they are fighting to give right leadership. But they're fighting so that they can get also the winner take in, because they can control the businesses and control who is appointed, who is given certain kind of position. So we feel there's fairness, whereby the constitution should have considered both those who can win the election and those who maybe did not win for an even kind of.
All right, we'll be asking the panel to see if they agree to that. And Anna Josephat Kemanya is smiling that. But Jerry, let me get to you now. Do you think we've lived up to the true mandate of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, just to name a few, to organize government, guarantee rights, promote democracy and justice, ensure equitable development, and of course safeguard the sovereignty of the people? Have we lived up to this mandate 15 years in?
Yes, I can say that the Constitution of Kenya 2010 has enabled us as a country to get to a point of, especially with the Bill of Rights, people can now express themselves freely, can check the government, they can also point out on the issues they feel they are oppressing them. I think that's a good move. But on the issue of equitability, especially with the devolution, we are yet to realize that, especially with the major parts of the counties in Kenya, because we find that devolution has a lot of challenges in it. So equitability still not yet have been realized as at the moment, but with other things like expression and all that, we are somewhere.
So what do you make of concerns around freedom of speech being compromised in the country, especially when now people want to be arrested for maybe just giving their views on issues of public dissent? What do you make of that?
I think now it's cutting short what we have, because the Bill of Rights guarantees us the freedom of speech, expression, and all that. But now when we get to a point where maybe the executive or maybe the interior CS says that we should not be expressing ourselves, we should not give our views, I think that now becomes something else against the Constitution. But before then, because now this is an issue of individuals who are in office right now, because before then people could freely express themselves according to the Constitution. And I think the issue now here is the people who are in office, maybe they don't want to be checked out on their issues, on the wrongs that they're doing in the offices. Yeah.
All right, Kamanya, talk to us about some of the challenges that you see in the Constitution of Kenya 2010, and some that you'd say that, this area needs a little bit of fixing.
Well, I think by and large, the greatest challenge you continue to face came from the inception of our country. Because this is not the first constitution to have as Kenya. And I wanted to take us back to the first presidency we had, come 1963. You remember, or perhaps you've heard of it, depends on now when one joined Kenya as a person, that a vice president then, by the name of Ogiga Odinga, resigned because he felt the then president, Jomo Kenyatta, was not honoring the constitution. And then after that, we had President Moi. And when he came into office, which kind of gave a birth to this new constitution, he stayed in office long enough, but towards the late or the early 90s, the late 80s, early 90s, people started agitating for repealing some of the constitutional sections of the Constitution. The most pronounced one was the 2A, about multipartyism, because people felt that it was now growing to a dictatorship. And people needed to express themselves, the freedom of rights, rights of expression, the liberties of Kenyans and all that, human rights, and most importantly, the right to vote as an individual, because people did not have that directly. And President Moi, of course, he was not very happy with that. We know what happened to that generation. But unfortunately, as much as that was repealed and we got the rights now to vote, the multipartyism, and people started engaging on the political discourse, the political class saw it as a way to continue yielding power. And they undermined the spirit of a constitution, because a constitution is supreme. This constitution is what the people want. Then, fast forward, we have our president, the late President Mwai Kibaki, and he left us a legacy that we forever remember him by. I know you have the economics that we keep talking about, but I think the birth of our constitution, this 2010 constitution, for me, it was his greatest achievement and legacy that he left us as a country. Now, when it came into play, again, we have a very good constitution, but modern wisdom informs that a good constitution does not make a good country. It is constitutionalism, honoring the spirit and the word of that constitution, that builds up a people, the nation, that now make up a good country. That is where the struggle is. Constitutionalism, are we fully committed to the spirit and the letter or the word of our constitution? We do not honor what I would call a conceptual fidelity. That's why you will see a judge will issue a court order. It's a judiciary, it's an arm of government, but another arm of government is not going to honor that. That's why you hear, like my friend Han says, that development is not fully devolved. There are areas that are not experiencing development today. But if you go to budget allocation, each county has a governor. That governor receives funds that are supposed to do whatever project they're supposed to do. So it's not the fault of, in a manner of speaking, the national government, that the local, because we have two forms of government. Now it's not the local government, it's the county government. It's not the fault of the national government that the county government is not working. So devolution came to make sure, as my panelists are saying, that there is equitable distribution of resources, that each and every child in this, or Kenyan in this country, has an equal opportunity to advance in life and to access services. So my lapse that I am able to identify is not just about projects and programs. It is about us not honoring the spirit of the Constitution. Constitutionalism is where we fail. Because if we simply do what the Constitution says, we are going to avoid the three greatest enemies, according to me, that hinder our advancing as a nation, which is corruption, incompetence, and impunity. If we can deal with that, and the only way to deal with that is just to honor the Constitution, we put you in office where you belong, meritocracy, you know, that will take out the incompetence we see even with our members of parliament. Because today you'll hear people saying, my member of parliament is very good, they gave us bursary. That is regression. That is not progress. The bare minimum. And if anything, the NGCDF is unconstitutional again. You get? So if we can deal with impunity, incompetence, and corruption, then we'll have a good country. And the only way to deal with that is to honor the Constitution. Because it is an all-inclusive document and gives us a foundation on how we are supposed to be governed in a nation. It takes care of our morals, it takes care of our economics, it takes care of social justice, it takes care of even, you know, the bilateral and international relations with other states across the globe. So I think where we fail is honoring the Constitution. Or else it's just details on how we don't do it. Yes.
All right. I would love to get your reaction on what Hans said about the uneven distribution of power in the country, you know, with the 50+1 and the remaining 49.
Right.
What do you think of that? Do you agree that indeed with that now in the Constitution, there is indeed uneven distribution of power in the country?
I hold the opinion that winner takes it all is the direction to continue going as a country. Because there will not be a day where we will agree unanimously to have a president. There will still be objections. There will still be 2, 3 candidates. And what does the Constitution say? That a majority will have their way, a minority will have their say. And at the end of the day, we shall respect the decision of the Kenyans. The spirit, the voice of, they say the voice of the people is the voice of God. The voice of the people says that the majority will decide who becomes their leader on that specific time, in that specific era. So where we fall short is that we put people in, we employ, nowadays I like calling them our employees. The president is my #1 employee. And in 2027, we'll be hiring and firing. We employ people who are not competent enough to understand that I've been placed in this office by a simple majority, 50+1, to serve the entire constituency. And this constituency could be a nation, could be a county, could be a sub-county, a constituency, or a ward. That's where we fall short. The incompetency of the people we have in office. Because once you get into the National Assembly as an MP, you are no longer there representing TV47 constituency. It is the National Assembly. You legislate on laws that are going to affect persons that voted for you and persons that did not vote for you. So if we try to expand now the government, because we're still talking about the expanded wage bill, and try to create room for the proverbial perennial losers, like in this case, Raila Odinga giving a position of prime minister, blah, 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 then what are we doing to the Constitution? What are we doing to the rights of the people? Well, why do we then need to vote? That's the question I continue asking. If at the end of an election we are going to merge the opposition, or the government is going to merge to merge forces with the opposition, why do we need to vote? Can they then just sit down and agree, since even after voting, whether you win or lose, you're still going to work together, let's just do it before the election and save, like now, I think 61 billion that we are about to allocate to IBC. So I believe we need to come into reality of acknowledging that an electoral process has a loser and has a winner. And once that is concluded, we all should make peace with the outcome and let those who are in office serve Kenyans. Those who do not perform, we recall them, we impeach them, we fire them, because we are the employers. The other challenge we are facing with people who are not comfortable with the winner take it all is that we have an old thinking that continues to exist. And that's another challenge we are facing in the implementation of our Constitution. People who still think that being in office makes you powerful. You know, instead of understanding that being in office puts you in a position of service. Servitude is one of the ethos that is well inscribed in our constitution. So there is a personal issue. We need to look at the personalities and traits of the people we put in office, and also we need to look at the ethics of the office bearers or the office that come to serve us as Kenyans, so that we're able to match the requirement of an office with a most appropriate person. I think there is a mismatch, and that's why people keep complaining, no, in this office I'm not able to do this and the other. I should have been allowed to invite other people. And then we have what the president would call a mongrel of a government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll be getting back into, you mentioned
Right.
something quite interesting, recalling and firing, but we'll be getting deeper into it after this break. How easy is it actually to recall them and fire them, and what governs that? But Faith, you brought in the aspect of devolution. We'll be coming back to you after this break. Tell us how your county is doing in terms of devolution, where you come from. Do you feel like it is serving your people right? Matters health, in GCDF, agriculture, is your county doing well in regards to devolution? Stay with us. You're watching Morning Cafe. We're talking about Katiba at 15.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going up.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying with the program. You're watching Morning Cafe. This morning we're talking about Katiba at 15 years. Today is not a public holiday, but a day for us to reflect on the Constitution of Kenya 2010, 15 years in. What strides have we made and what loopholes needs to be sealed? My panel in studio, we were getting to you, Faith, in regards to devolution. And, you know, it was the biggest promise of the 2010 Constitution. You brought it up. Would you agree that it has reduced inequality in counties? And while you answer that, how is your county doing in regards to devolution? Are you seeing progress? When we talk about health, how is your county doing?
Thank you so much. So I'll say that devolution has not worked for Kajiado, to be honest. if you have like a visit to the most remote areas, you'll see a totally different picture. And in my own opinion, we have the wrong leaders in place. And these are the people we need to get out of office in 2027 so that we see a difference. We see the Katiba, the promise of the 2010 Katiba transforming Kajiado County. And Kajiado being highly patriarchal, I don't see any representation of women. Apart from the women rep, I don't see any representation of the women of the youth. So there needs to, we need to do something. Yeah.
You're a youth advocate, Faith, and while you talk about, there's not much representation in Kajiado County, for instance, then whose responsibility is it? Are the youth in Kajiado County well or very much involved in terms of just, decision making? Let's say when we talk about public participation, if at all you do have this in Kajiado County, are they involved in decision making?
They're not. They're only involved, they only engage theoretically. And the problem that we have is that the youth do not know so much about the Constitution. And the problem we have as a country is that most people think that the Constitution is just a document for politicians and the lawyers, without knowing that it's truly a lifeline for every Kenyan. So we need to have these conversations, and that is why as a youth advocate, even at Emerging Leaders Foundation, we're having these conversations in the grassroots level. We're having town hall conversations, letting the youth know about the Constitution, letting them know about their rights, so that they can be able to speak from a point of knowledge. Yeah.
All right, Hans, I want us to get back to that point where you said an even power distribution in the country, but you do understand that the Constitution aimed to curb excessive executive, power. So would you not agree that it has succeeded in just creating that balance when it comes to executive power? If you're talking about there needs to be now something in the Constitution that guarantees for, an uneven, something that is even distribution of power.
Yeah. Just before I get back to that, let me just echo what Wakili is saying. We have very minimal sensitization about the Constitution. Even today in the village, an assistant chief, a chief will choose who to write a letter for, or where to favor in an agreement of a land. We have small sensitization about the Constitution that can help people make decisions. Just as you say, it's not all for politicians. Even as low as assistant chief and chiefs in the village, if you haven't given him something, which tells us even this Constitution never sorted out corruption. It still instills some powers on some leaders, whereby they can never make a decision. Coming back to the uneven distribution of power, I want to echo the words of Kamenya, that devolution helped, but not really. We have few money that goes to the counties, less than 30%. Who controls the 70%? Roads haven't been devolved. Are roads evenly constructed in the country? No. Hospitals, everything, even implementations, people do things because they want to benefit politically. Even employment, today someone becomes a president, for example Hans, then I want to employ my friend from Nyanza who is a friend, not because he's competent enough for the work. So this Constitution never gave a proper way that somebody who is competent for employment qualifies. It gives somebody who probably present things that is regionally balancing leadership, but appoints a friend who serves him, not the Kenyans. So that is what I want to question those who made this Constitution, that what did you think you should do so that if Hans becomes the president, I do not probably employ my friend Kamenya because I feel he comes from central Kenya and I'll have done a balance. But Kamenya serves me. He doesn't serve his country. Something else, this Constitution gave power to the executive. So all resources are controlling the executive. That's why you realize today the parliament is being controlled. It doesn't matter who becomes the president. Parliament will still be controlled because powers were taken from the parliament. You remember in the previous Constitution, we used to have a member of parliament who will become a minister, assistant minister. At times, they could, and even though they could have maybe some independence, but nowadays, members of parliament have been controlled by the executive because there are more resources in the executive more than in the parliament. So parliaments only depend on salaries. So if you see, they might bend so that at least they might be given some money. What also Constitution didn't observe is the issues of buying force, handouts. The Constitution didn't tell us what do you do with a mwananchi so that it doesn't come with expectation of being given something so that he can fight. He can vote you in, sorry. And the Constitution didn't tell us how do you manage a politician so that he doesn't use money to purchase for votes. So that we can lead us who are right. We don't get we don't get the best bidder. You know, today we have the best bidders in parliament. We have few leaders in parliament. So Constitution didn't tell us how do we make sure that a youth who don't have resources can win. As somebody who has a disability but has the right leadership can win. A woman who has the right leadership can win. Probably maybe they do not have resources based on the history of Africa. And that's why today this idea of affirmative action was tried when we were coming up with women-led leaders and so on. But it will still give a chance to a woman who has more resources to purchase the vote in the ground. But the woman who could be having right leadership but broke in the account might not get elected. Something else is that the Constitution hasn't given us, so now we can solve the regional blocks, the tribal regional blocks. I would have wished the Constitution gave boundaries that do not favor regions of tribes. So that people who are elected do not necessarily have to come from one tribe. So that if you now go to where I come from, which is Rift Valley, it is largely the Kalenjin. So it means if I seem to have a say in the Kalenjin region, I control who becomes the member of parliament, the MCA, the senator, and so on. So it will give us regional blocks all along. So if this block combined with this block, they form a president, and therefore they appoint their people to leadership and they distribute resources to their regions.
But Hans, doesn't that rely on, a political party? The powerful you are, the most people you get, the most votes you get.
Is not what gives you power today in Kenya?
The people.
Tribe. We have tribal.
So you do agree that tribalism is actually
let me tell you, two things that we really need this Constitution should really kill is tribal sidelines, regional blocks of tribals. It should kill. I don't know how they should stop it so that at least we have a region like Nairobi, whereby you find somebody who is a Luya can become a member of parliament in somewhere, somebody who is called whatever it can be. You've observed the governors we've had in Uasin Gishu. We had Kidero, who is a Luo, then came Akamba, who is Songo, and today we have Sakaja, who is a Luya. So if we can manage like Nairobi, we will be able to elect anybody based on the kind of manifesto they can give us, not because you come from a region. Like today, even when we are in my region, let me speak from where I come from. I come from Nandi County. If there's somebody from Kericho County who maybe his parents migrated to Nandi County and wants today to be a governor, he will face some critic that he is a Kericho person, not a Nandi County person, or maybe other counties. So this Constitution should have been a place to solve that completely, so that anybody has even chances to be a leader in this country. Something else, and lastly, is with this kind of Constitution we have today, it will never give fair employment. Because today, if a CS comes from a certain region, more people from his region will be favored in that ministry. So the Constitution didn't give us even way whereby anybody can qualify for employment. And that thing trickles down from the president to the cabinet secretaries. That's why we have a region that has more cabinet secretaries than other regions. It trickles down to PSSs. If you go to PSSs, not evenly distributed. Go to MDs, CEOs of parastatals, not evenly. Go to head of procurements, head of finances, HRs. It's not evenly. So people will always employ those people who feel they're loyal to them and they're probably there from their regions. And that's what skills the development that we have in the country, both development being given by the government and resources you earn so that you develop your people, whereby today, if I'm employed in a government, it means I'll be able to purchase a land. I have a farm where I employ people. I have a house whereby it's under construction, somebody is being employed. It means some resources are more evenly in a certain region than probably another place. And that's why there are places in this country that people believe we are in a certain kind of region. Then there is Kenya. When we travel, you travel to Kenya. Go to, the other day I was from Moyale. The people believe this is not Kenya. There's Kenya somewhere. Yeah, and having the fact, you know, it also gives that because of dense populations or places along the valley, and you know, Kenya has only almost less than 20% arable land. So people who are in deserts and so on are few. So they might not get a chance to vote big leaders or leadership in their government so that they'll be able to get resources in their region. So these people who are settled along the arable land will always get better leadership than the others. This constitution never addressed that.
All right, interesting. Jerry, talk to us about your county, where you come from. Are the youth in your county well informed? You're a youth leader. Are they well informed on matters constitution? Do they know their rights? Do you engage in public participation with them? And while at that, talk to us about devolution as well, if it's serving your county well.
All right. I come from Murang'a County, the best.
The best. I was to ask that question before. Sorry for cutting you short. Okay. But Hans, you're talking about more allocation of you know, funds to these counties. But we have a county like Murang'a County doing very well in terms of health. Then, if the money being given to counties are, you know, almost the same, then what is Murang'a County doing best with what is being given to it that other counties are not doing? Are we, you know, are counties eating much than they should not?
That's what I needed to. It's a point I just said, I'll say it before we leave this studio. We never need, actually, Kenya don't need 47 counties. It's a very small country. We should have used the provincial regions that we had, like 8. We would have maybe probably 8 governors today, because it has distributed corruption. So we have many governors today who loot and have employed. If you study today, there are many counties whom their wage bill goes beyond 50%. So you wonder what will go to development. So we've just distributed corruption all along. So when your county is lucky to find a sober governor who goes beyond pressure of society, pressure of other leaders, and probably the executive, he might have the chance to be stubborn and maybe deliver to their people. The same constitution still did not tell how it can change the powers of the national government and the county government, because at times you realize the investigation authority is being controlled by the executive. So an executive can use departments like DCI, AESCC to undermine a governor to behave on the way they want. So we might not get performance from a governor because the constitution still did not give us how counties can be independent. And also we haven't given also proper ways on how we can limit employment and so on in the county levels. So I feel like as much as what this constitution did for us, and we feel that that's really helped us, it developed corruption. So we have somebody corrupting Nandi County, Uasin Gishu, Kisumu. So it is not still the only nationals who hit. So we've distributed hitting all the way downwards. But for the likes of Murang'a, we've seen the free Uji and so on, and those are things we really celebrate, but that is 15% or 20%. What about the 80%?
Health
what can 80%?
Very well in Murang'a County. Health is doing very well in.
Yeah, if it is doing well, I want you to imagine if this constitution had given strong rules on how a country can be governed. What can 100% do for Kenya?
All right. Jerry, talk to us about Murang'a County. Despite all the praises that, we are giving Murang'a County, they say give credits to where credits is due. But how about the youth? Are they well informed about matters constitution, and do they know their rights?
No, that's the issue, because most of the youths are not aware of the constitution, they're not aware of the provisions, and also they're not aware of their rights. And even as we speak about the county doing very well, we still have very weak accountability, especially from the MCAs, because these people are supposed to oversight the county. But you find that even as the county is doing well, there are also things like high wage bills. Yes, there are developments, but there are such challenges there. So we find that even the people who are electing these MCAs should also be cross-examining them before even they give them the votes, because we need proper oversight of resources in the counties, not only in Murang'a, but all over the counties we have in the country, because these are the people who are supposed to check and to put the governor on check, because when such resources have been misused, mismanaged, it's the fault of the MCAs, because they are in those seats to make sure that there is accountability. So the youths are not quite aware about their rights, what they are supposed to do with the resources they have been allocated. Remember, in the budget we have budget allocation for the youths, but where does this money go to? Are the youths given this money to do development, to do startups and all that? We are not, if they're there, they're very few. And as the fellow panelists said, it's who you know that maybe you'll get those funds to do startups, or it's through corruption anyway. So such things are making us youths not to be fully represented in various seats in the country, in the counties, and this should be a wake-up call to us, because we need to put the government on check with our constitution, because if we are not aware of our rights, then we might not be aware of what the government should be doing for us. And that's why we are seeing the executive compromising the registry at the parliament, because the work of the Han said that the president holds a lot of power. According to the constitution, the president has the least power, but now he has been able to capture the parliament, which has the most power in the land, because these are the people who make the laws, the people who are supposed to do the impeachment and all that, especially with the president. But if they are captured, they cannot be able to deliver their mandate as the members of parliament. And also you find them so ignorant, because most of them also don't know the constitution. They're not aware of what they're supposed to be doing. That's why you hear some of the members of parliament saying that they passed laws for the executive, the president, and not representing the people that elected them to the office. These are the very small things that are making us to fail to make sure that the Katiba, the constitution, has been implemented, because we are getting to the office people who are ignorant, people who are not aware of what is supposed to be done in the country.
All right. Kamanya, Nigeria has brought in something quite interesting, state capture. And of course, quote unquote, we've heard about the executive capturing, again, quote unquote, the judiciary, the legislature. But you're talking about if we then now are able to just rule the country or govern the country in line with what the constitution says. You talk about recalling and firing of these leaders who are not doing what they need to do. Then how easy is it to do that? And when we talk about state capture in this day and age, do you see us getting to that point where we are now able to, adhere to the constitution?
Well, thank you. And I like what my panelists are saying, because they are clearly highlighting what you were speaking about earlier: impunity, corruption, and incompetence. And I like to draw our attention to Mwongozo. Mwongozo is a code of governance for all state corporations in Kenya, where it gives us direction on how to hire, how to do balancing, meritocracy, competencies, and all the codes of conduct for office bearers in any department, ministry, or agency. Now, like what Hans is saying, is just how that has been violated. You hire your cronies, you mismanage resources. That is what you're talking about: corruption, incompetence, and impunity. But we have enough laws in this country. The challenge is that we do not subscribe to them. So the issue is not the constitution. The constitution has provided for each and every office and setup in our society. The problem we have is that the characters that we have in office are the people who do not interpret very well as they should what the spirit of the Constitution envisaged for the Kenyans or the people that they serve. And that's now where we have the disconnect, as you're asking. How do we then recall them? How do we then get them out of office? How do we have them impeached? And how easy is it? I would like to thank this regime of President William Ruto, because it made us to be very civically educated. Now everybody talks about the Constitution, everybody talks about their right. There is no much that they are going to achieve for the remaining 2 years, but they have done a greater good to help people understand what the Constitution says.
The youth leaders don't agree with that.
Well, a lot of people will say, even in the village, Katiba inasema aje. What is the Constitution saying? You know, you'll even hear people saying, my right, ni haki yangu. That's why you see people even speaking up to policemen. Nowadays, people are not as afraid. They're afraid of abductions, but you know, there was a time a policeman was a person not to approach. But you see people, there's an improved in terms of relationship, where people appreciate policemen as fellow Kenyans whom you can walk into an office and ask or state or report matters. So there has been some changes now, although we keep making 3 steps forward and 2 steps backwards, so we only end up with a single step moving on. But what I'm trying to allude to, in principle, is that nowadays people are very woke, politically, civically woke. People are trying to ask, okay, you, as a president, that's why you have heard a lot of people saying, when a president makes a roadside declaration, and people say, ni uongo, it's a lie, because they know the Constitution does not provide for that. You know, it's not the days of Moi where a president will wake up high and fire you just in a rally. Today, even appointment of a CS or any other serious position, it is, you know, there is an appointment, you are vetted, and then you are approved. So we have processes and procedures that we should observe as a country for us to experience the good leadership that we desire. But it goes back to us as a people. What kind of people do we put in office? When we vote for members of parliament who cannot even present a bill, a motion in parliament, how do you expect them to represent you? Hans spoke about corruption, bribery during voting. That is not the fault of the Constitution.
Right.
That is not the fault of the candidate themselves. It is the fault of us as the people. It is our fault. It's our shortcoming, us as a people. Because you demand money to vote for somebody, and then what do you expect? It is an investment they have made. So we have to go back to an issue-based conversation. And then we hopefully will end up with people who understand what we want them to do for us. And then if we do that and we subscribe to the Constitution again and obey the rule of law, we have systems on how to recall, how to fire, and how to impeach. Each and every office is well prescribed. The problem I see us having is that this Stone Age thinking that our cultural heritage, our tribes, our socio-local setup is like a, you know, it's like a disease. It's a bad thing to have. For you to belong to a certain tribe is what is ailing us. We have to be proud of our cultural heritage. We have to appreciate where we come from as a people and use that to progress socially, economically, and politically. But unfortunately, we use it to divide ourselves. Yet, we know we will never be equal in terms of numbers, in terms of where you come from. You know, these are matters of, even in the jungle, you have lions, you have zebras, you have gazelles, but they all live harmoniously. We need to create an ecosystem of a government that serves all the people. Because at any given time in Kenya, we can only have one president. So that a president must have come from somewhere. This issue of saying mtu wetu is the one who is in office. We have to understand, when you have a CS who is from your tribe, a CS education, it does not make education free for you just because he's from your tribe. So you need a person in office who understands policy formulation, dissemination of information, allocation of resources, and how we distribute now the services. Public policy should be what is leading us and make us all come together and have a unity of purpose, form a government that is functional.
All right. Faith, as we wind up this conversation, now how do we work around our ways, around claiming the constitutional space? We're talking about civic education, even as much as you're saying, if you go to the counties, mashinani utasikia Katiba inasema vipi, but civic education is still low and civic education is still underfunded in the country. So how do we work our way around just claiming that constitutional space? Okay, so the only way we can be able to realize the full promise of the 2010 Constitution is if we all embrace the Constitution, and also if we are able to, uphold accountability, and also in accountability in terms of having leaders, like when it comes to the community, and for instance, your MP is corrupt, you don't start saying, huyu ni mtu wetu. We don't hold them accountable kwa sababu ni mtu wetu. We need to hold them accountable. And also now when it comes to the civic space, we need to have these conversations in the community, in languages people understand. You see, and if you brought people in a hall in Nairobi, trust me, the conversations will not be raw. They will not be unfiltered. But if we have these conversations in a hall in Kibra, if you have these conversations in a hall in the remote areas in Kenya, these people will be able to get the information. These people will be able to understand the Constitution. Yeah. So all right. Thank you so much. Unfortunately, our time is up, but we can continue this conversation on our social media platforms. Tell us where you were in 2010, 27th of August, 2010, and if you do understand really what the Constitution says and how we can protect the Constitution and push it further. Just not, conversations being held in boardrooms or here in studio, but further in order to ensure that we live up to the amendments and considerations of the Constitution of Kenya 2010. With me in studio, I had Jasfat Kamanye, a political analyst, Faith Matayan, a youth advocate, Hans Ropp, political analyst, and of course, Njuri Maina, a youth leader. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for making time. And that brings us to the end of this conversation. You're still watching Morning Cafe. Stay with us.